Thank you, folks. Once again, I'll remind you how important a respectful conversation is. So please be a part of this conversation and keep your comments in the form of a question and keep them short. I'm really proud to, first of all, have here the director, Maayan Schwartz. And I'm equally proud to hand things over to the one and only Sarah Rosen, who is a journalist, filmmaker, writer, and happens to also work for our festival. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Isaac. Maayan, welcome. Welcome to New York. I just want to say before I forget, the American Friends of Neve Shalom Wat Al Salam have these little cards outside on the table. So if you'd like to learn more, please do take one. Maayan, you were supposed to be here in November, and then the events of October made us postpone the festival. It's really only become more relevant, your film. So poignant to see it now, so powerful. How have things changed in the village? How is everybody? What are updates that you can share with us?
So, yeah, straight away, boom, to business.
Tachlis.
So before October 7, although everybody's waiting for October 7, I want to say, first of all, thank you all for coming. I think there is more people here than there were in my wedding. So, and the reason why I say that is because I was so used to, like the film was working okay, let's say. Before that, I was traveling around. But let's say I had screening that there were 3 people, including me. So yeah, having all of you here in this very complicated time, and so having been so another thing is that every once in a while my English just collapses. Okay, so I just want to warn you guys. And if there are any people here that speaks Hebrew, there are. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to Google Translate you every once in a while. If I just forget a word, I'm going to use you guys. And another thing that I wanted to say, that you mentioned that I was supposed to come here before. Okay, so it was around 23. So Maayan of 23 thought it will be a good idea, apparently, to give you, actually what you saw is like the director's cut. So back then I was probably very confident with this director cut. Now I'm not so sure about it. But no, the reason why I say that because it is an extended cut than, so you actually earned more scenes and more stuff, So I was really obsessed about the film and I was continue editing it. So if every once in a while maybe a subtitles was like misspelling and everything, so I did everything. So just if there is any, like for example, a lack of context or anything like this, let me know. Because really, I know that I'm not so good in adding context. I did a screening with a tour guide that really did like a 15 minutes context just to explain about the village. So if any of you are missing...
You said you once got a question of, is Neve Shalom a settlement? And you said, no. You could spend a whole movie just on the history, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And another thing is, why did I ask you about the language? Because the people who don't understand Hebrew or Arabic actually are missing like a big, large, I would say like ironic part in the film that you don't really notice when the languages are changing. So that's something that just as itself is something that is unfortunately very refreshing in Israel. So only that is something that is something to hold and to talk about. The fact that people here, I like on purpose decided not to put titles that tells you who are the people. So then you're like, he's an Arab, he's a Jew. So that was the idea behind it. So now for your question. Yeah, I'm stalling. Actually, October 10, more or less, I was being interviewed to this Austrian news channel, and she said, "You okay?" Asking the questions, and I said, "Okay, I'm sure. I'm so used to it." And then she was asking the questions, and I was so used to having these automatic responses. But during the interview, I just felt that they're not accurate anymore. Like the whole area, it was such a dramatic event that everything shifted. So even me, while I was talking about it and answering, I felt that I shifted myself. And even now, I still feel that I'm, even me, even the whole village is still trying to understand what is this wave that is still happening. And so everything is still, shifted. So I don't have one specific answer to give you, but what I can tell you that people are not running around the streets and killing each other. So that's something that is a good thing. But when it just happened, of course, like any other place, it wasn't easy. It was very, very, very complicated. And I think what makes Neve Shalom what it is that even though it was complicated and people had hard feelings, we decided like there were meetings and people came and talked and said really hard things to swallow, both sides, but we continued doing those meetings. And I think even though at the end of the day you cannot reach an agreement, but I think what is the most important thing to understand is that it's okay not to agree as long you get it and you still, how will I say, you still respect the other side and the other side's right to think an opinion that is not what you are thinking. So
it's not an or film, it's like a both and film. And I think part of why it's so powerful to watch is that you are so much more qualified to be having these very difficult conversations than so many of us, but we all know the importance of the conversations.
I heard a very good sentence the other day that someone said that today's politics is a competition between two half-truths. So I think in Neve Shalom, in a way, we are holding a little bit more than a half-truth, okay? I wouldn't say a full truth because nobody's holding a full truth, except me, I always have a full truth. But yes, I think, and that's the most complicated thing, because what happened is that every side is, hiding in his narrative and his news channel and has his own stream of information, that this stream of information decide which faces to show and which faces not to show, which names to show, which names not to show, what stories to talk about and what stories not to talk about. And then you hold this sadness, okay? And there is sadness on both sides, but each side is sure that he's the victim, okay? And I think in Neve Shalom we're holding, like we're getting at least two streams of information. And I can say, on a personal level, it was really the hardest 7 months of my life, having all those streams of pain on both sides and understanding that the situation is so much more than what, people, describe it.
So even though so much has changed, when you were making the film, what did you feel that you learned over the course of making it that you didn't know before you started shooting?
First of all, that I shouldn't do films about myself. That's something that is, and because I was so smart about it, my next film is about me making a film about my father. So I didn't learn anything. But I would say, I will tell you a little bit about the story that reached the film. You can see it a bit in the film that the gap I had from my friends. Actually, I was born the only Jewish boy among around, say, 8 Arab boys. They were my friends, they were my year. Of course, there were girls, but who were thinking about girls back then? And so we were friends, but then we reached the age of middle school. We split it up. Back then, that's what like the Jews used to go to a Jewish middle school, and then the Arabs used to go to a different one, and then I split it up from my friend. And in a way, I wanted to do that, to go to the big place. I had mixed feelings about it. But at the end of the day, I felt like I was splitted away from my friends. And I always had this yearning, I always had this feeling that one day we will eventually return to be good friends as we used to. Like, I used to see them, but it wasn't the same. So I used to say, okay, when we finish high school, then it will happen. But what happens when after you finish high school? The army. Then the army just, took a really strong turn, because then it's not only the fact that you're not spending time with them, there is a lot of the army. So, and then what happened was that I felt that I drifted away so much from the village and from my friends that I just couldn't come back. So more or less like 16 years, I just, in a way, ran away from the village, and I really had a lot of feelings. I had a lot of mixed feelings. And even today, I can find myself, making conversation between myself, about the army, about stuff. I was really, thinking about the topic. I think this whole Israelis, Palestinians, Jews and Arabs, the whole thing is like really into our DNA when you're growing up in this type of place. But I decided to do this film. I have this really weird thing that I do, that I go, if something is bothering me, so I'll go 100% towards it. So that's what I did. I decided to do a film about it, and you happen to be here watching it. I didn't plan for anyone to see it, actually. It was like an excuse to see all my friends and to ask them questions, and using the camera as a way to do that. So I would never go and ask those questions like Shirin and Sagi and all of those people. I would never come and just finally, start talking to them about this. Yeah, my English, as I said. But what I understood was that most of the demons were in my mind. Most of them, maybe 99% really, were actually, I was afraid and I was putting it in the side, and during the years it just became more and more and more a thing. So that's something I think everybody can relate in many different topics. It's not like whenever you have something that bothers you and you leave it in the side and you don't want to deal with it, it just grows to be a bigger and bigger thing than it actually is. Mm-hmm. And if you would tell me at the end of, would you move to Neve Shalom in the beginning of the film, I would say, no way. No way I'm doing that. But during the making of the film, I was actually, when I saw how close I am to those friends and how close I am to the idea of the village, and how then eventually it wasn't such a thing.
I'll ask two more and then we'll open it up to the audience. Great. So here we are, we're in America. What has it been like bringing this film to the US, to audiences here? Of course, you know that this has been a conversation around the world. We are having a very intense conversation here.
So I would say that I had actually now a couple of screenings in the States, but all of them were to a Jewish audience. But of course you say, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. But eventually I feel, at least the people that I met in screenings, I was really expecting, I really prepared for like really progressive questions, or the other one, the right-wing questions, but I wasn't really being challenged. Like, if you want to challenge me, I'm okay. But at the end of the day, I felt like there is a lot of, like, people are thirsty to have something to hold on to. And I never felt so connected to the community of the Jews in the States like I did screening the films here. I really feel like the Jews here and progressive Israelis have something that is like bond to each other that is, now I feel stronger than ever. So really, I just feel a real deep feeling of like belonging. And
Good. I feel bad leaving you with this final question. It's a hard-hitting question, but people maybe who came to see this film were expecting a kind of utopian, optimistic, right, coexistence, peaceful village, and that's something that you're used to, and the film is really about interrogating that idea and breaking it down and bursting that bubble. Now, so much has changed. Do you see a future of living together? Do you see a future of Israelis, Palestinians, Arabs, Jews being able to coexist and live together?
So, in a way, this question was being asked, like, all of my life I've been asked these questions. Like, I'm pretty prepared for it. It's okay. It's not your fault.
Of course, you represent everybody.
Yeah, I will tell you now if Israelis and Palestinians will live together after the break. At the end of the day, I would say this, okay? And that's what I think the movie says, and that's my opinion, is like, first of all, when you ask, is there peace or not, it's not a yes or no question, okay, about the village. If it's like a success or a failure, that's something that people used to ask. But I would say we don't have any options. Like, okay, we can continue with this violence and more and more and more and more until the day we understand that we don't have any other option. That's what I think. So we have an option to try to finish it now, or maybe having 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 wars and then understanding that we don't have other option and then trying to finish it. So that's what I think, because there's no way any of the sides will, even if we'll close our eyes and we really, really want to, and say, okay, now when we open the eyes, they won't be there. They will still be there and we will still be there, and that's it. There's nothing we can do about it, okay? We're stuck together for good and for worse, and we don't have other option. That's my answer.
Thank you so much. So we are going to open up to a few questions from the audience.
And I wanted just to add to your question. Yeah, in a way, it seems like I like talking, but so just to say that I think about it in, like, I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. Okay, so I think about this whole topic as if Neve Shalom is not is not an attempt to show, okay, this is how you should live your life. This is how Israel and Palestine should look like. Okay, this is my opinion. Okay, Neve Shalom is just a story. Okay, like any other stories, and we hear so many stories about how it will never happen, and we only can kill each other, and there's no way. But this is another story. So when you go out of this hall today, and you would remember all your stories. So one of the stories you will have is a story about a place that Israelis and Palestinians live together, and they don't try to kill each other. They try, they talk. It's not perfect, okay? They don't need to agree about everything, but at the same time, they're trying, and they're doing a dialogue, which is a story that is important to be told.
Thank you for saying that. So we'd love to hear some questions. Please do make sure that there are questions, and that you're respectful of Maayan as just a single human being.
First, I very much enjoyed your film, but I'd like to ask you, the film seems to have been completed before October 7th. If you had been in the middle of making that film and had 6 or 7 months to finish it, and you were finishing it, let's say, last week, what do you think the narrative would be?
Wow, thank God it didn't happen. I will have to maybe take 6 or 7 months to give you an answer, because it takes a while to build a narrative to a story. But I would say, if you would watch the film again, you would notice that there is a moment that it's not October 7, but it's what was back then the October 7. It was May 20,
2021.
21. And that was a very dramatic, at the time, how little did we know, but it was actually, for me, I don't know if maybe it was even more dramatic because the clashes were inside Israel. So it seemed like everything is burning inside, which in a way, for me, seems even more frightening because now it's like the whole together we're gonna win. So there's like this unity thing. There's this like war we know. So it's not exactly the same feeling. And I think in a way it's more or less the same narrative that, for example, if you think about the incidents, the clashes that happened in May 21, is that all of the mixed communities where Palestinians and Israelis live together, they were all had violence incidents except one place. Neve Shalom, yeah. So I think that has a lot to say about, first of all, about this community, and second of all, about the fact that I chose to go back because I was living back then in Jaffa, and Jaffa was burning, like the streets were burning literally. I remember, I know it's a whole story. If we'll have time, I will let you know some trick that was made in the film.
What's the trick?
I was a little puzzled by the end in which there was that note that the government does not support any expansion or more land for Neve Shalom or anything. I am assuming anything like that.
You're asking a very good question, and I will a little bit elaborate about this. When I first made the film, I didn't have this title in the end, but then a lot of people said, okay, so Neve Shalom is actually a failure because Neve Shalom has never replicated itself and never expanded. It's just, it still is a very small village, not so significant in the middle of the country. Nothing happened. Like, there is no other Neve Shalom. So I felt that it's important to add this title to explain that the reason, like, maybe for 30 years, there is like a long waiting list for people who want to join the village, but they can't because there is no place. There is no space. The only space we have is thanks to the Latrun monastery land that we are sitting there. Like, I will tell you a little bit, Bruno Usar was a Jewish, he was born Jewish in Egypt, moved to France, converted to Christianity, sent by the church to Israel. But he always felt that he's part and part, and he wanted to, to make a connection between the religions, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. 10 years he tried, people didn't come. Like they came, but it wasn't becoming a community. But then it became so much more political. But at the same time, he received land from the monastery, and he said, "Okay, let's do a village." And in the late 70s, people were starting to live on the hills, but it was always, oh, my English. But it was always on the land of Latrun monastery, and we didn't get an inch from the Israeli state, unfortunately. But, for example, Yad B'Yad, if you know, it's a chain of schools.
Hand-in-hand schools where...
So they were inspired by the school in Neve Shalom, and they came to learn how to do so, and now there's like 10 schools. So that's a very good success.
We have another question here. Could you just explain, it wasn't clear when you said we have to finish it. What did you mean? When you were asked the last question, we don't have any other option.
The future of Israel. You have to finish it.
Finish
Finish what?
המלחמות.
Wars.
Oh, wars.
Yeah, to finish fighting. Yeah, my brain just go to the next sentence and doesn't.
We're going to take one last question up there. Oh, two more.
Okay. One question. Were there ever any marriages between Jews and Arabs in the town? And if so, how did it go? If not, why do you think it didn't happen?
So that's the elephant in the room. When I was a very early filmmaker, and I took my film to a big festival in Amsterdam, and I had this speed dating with producers, and I met this producer from Canada, and I told him about the film I made, and he was really bored. So he didn't even listen. So I said, okay, but I have another film. Like I said, there's Israelis and Palestinians, and he couldn't care. After a while, he's asking, do they date each other? I said, no. Ooh, that's your film. So yes, I know that's something that a lot of people are interested in. So actually, it is almost a taboo that Jews and Arabs inside the village don't date each other. I think in a way, there's something that both sides feel.
Just to clarify, is it a taboo? There's a sense that they should be dating each other, or it's like you should not be dating each other?
Like it's not happening, okay? But I think there's a couple of answers to it. First of all, I think whenever you go to a community like this and you see the other side, your identity is getting clearer actually. People would think the other way around. You will go and you mix. Actually, your identity is getting clearer. But I think another reason is that the fact that it's a small village, a small community. Everybody knows everybody. You're growing up together. It's like, they're like your siblings in a way. It's a very small community. They're around, now when it's like the biggest, it's around 80 or 90 families. Yeah, very, very small.
We had one last question here in the middle.
This is great work, and I just wondered if it's been shown in any Arab countries, if there's been any invitation, because the Jews in the village have options of where they want to live. It doesn't seem like the Arabs have safety to choose this kind of life in another location.
So first of all, you're right. Like Jews are like I have the privilege to go and to live wherever I want. I'm more transparent in my uniqueness. But you're right. The Palestinians have a harder time, and Neve Shalom is like the safe haven for them.
There are some places that you would not want to live, I think, in the world, just to,
No, in the world, yes, but in Israel, it's easier.
in Israel.
Yeah. No, you were asking about Israel, right? Not the whole world.
I was asking other Arab countries or Arab communities within Israel.
Within Israel.
And outside.
But for the other question, it was actually a couple of weeks ago. It was sold to the BBC in Arabic, so that's a very interesting. I didn't receive any response yet, so I.
Folks, I want to, first of all, thank the two of you. Thank you so much for this conversation. Two important things. First of all, this is the first conversation with this level of complexity in this very complex situation that I've been a part of in 8 months, almost 8 months. And I want to thank you all for being a part of that and for doing it so respectfully. We need more of these. We need these conversations to happen. We need to explore this not just as black and white. The second thing is to continue this conversation. I want to recommend the film The Future. I recommend all of our films at the festival. But Sunday, we're showing a film, The Future, which is also from our other Israel Film Festival. It's going to be our opening night. And I look forward to continuing this conversation in a respectful way there. Thank you all very much. Last words from
So
Maayan.
while you're going, I would say